Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to this month's edition of Cult Classics, where we look back on iconic TV series which will stand the test of time in past generations, or which will stand the test of time in future generations. And our TV series this month that we're featuring on is the cult classic from the action sort of Marvel sort of universe in terms of. DC sort of universe. It's the one and only Gotham. It's the spin off in terms of Batman. We see the origins of a young Bruce Wayne. We hear all the backstory of a young James Gordon in his prime, and how the characters that we know on Penguin, Joker, Riddler, Poison Ivy, for example, how they come about. And one of my guests this evening, she plays actually a young Ivy, an Ivy in her infancy stage on Gotham. She plays the role of Ivy Pepper, the one and only Clare Foley. And Clare, I do believe you were in the very, very first episode of Gotham way back in September 22nd, 2014, the pilot episode.
Yes, I was.
And Claire, can I ask you, in terms of getting involved in Gotham, in terms of the audition sort of process, how did that come about for you? Obviously, they were probably looking for, you were a young girl, I suppose, at the time, back in 2014. So were they looking for a young girl between the ages of 10 to 15 sort of demographic? And did any sort of characteristics they were looking for, like the red hair and the sort of the stature of Ivy, or
Yeah, when I got the audition, there actually wasn't a lot of information. So when I tried out, they had like a fake name because they didn't want to release anything about the series. But yeah, just that kind of thing. They were looking for a young girl, preferably red hair, but obviously you can always dye someone's hair and use colored contacts and stuff like that. But yeah, I went in for one audition, and right after that, I booked the role, which was really cool.
and I suppose, Claire, in terms of the young, there was a good blend in Gotham, especially starting off between the young and the old. And yourself, Carmen Bicondra, and David Mazouz were probably all the sort of a similar sort of age. Not much between you, maybe 1 or 2 years either way in terms of starting off with Gotham. And then I suppose you had the older cast in terms of Sam Pertward, who played Alfred, obviously then Ben McKenzie, Donna Logue, Iron Richards as such. So in terms of cast harmony, did you almost feel that sort of that you were the kids of the show, the children, and they were your sort of guardians as such?
Yeah, definitely. It was really awesome to have Cameron and David with me because, like you were saying, we were all within a couple of years and we had a lot of fun together, both on set and off set. We spent a lot of time together hanging out. And David was from LA and living in New York, so he didn't know a lot of people at the time. And so I'm from the East Coast. So he spent a lot of time with me and my family, hanging out on the weekends, and we had a lot of fun. And definitely all of the older people on the show were really great and really mentored us and gave us a lot of great advice and were really kind and just loving all around.
And I suppose, Claire, in the early seasons, you were sort of a recurring sort of star, a recurring actress, the role of Ivy Pepper. And what was it normally like for you a week on the set in Gotham when you were heard that you were going to be needed for a certain episode in terms of coming in? Did you have to plan maybe school and different things around that?
Yeah, it was really great. They had on-set tutors that we would work with, and usually the man who was hired to tutor Cameron when I would come on would just also tutor me. So it worked out really well that I knew him and he got to know kind of my teachers and my school. So when I had to leave for episodes and miss a couple of days of school, he had already had like all the information and kind of knew all my classes that I was taking. So that really worked for me to kind of go in and out of school.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously in terms of that sort of hiatus from school, and obviously New York, a busy sort of thriving sort of acting scene. Once Gotham started to pick up in terms of popularity, did you notice that sort of effect on your sort of life growing up as a teenager, that you were becoming more recognized in terms of obviously Gotham, a sort of cable sort of TV show, starting off in its infancy, I suppose in the first few episodes, people are only hearing about it. But towards the end of season one, did you feel that sort of, oh, people are beginning to recognize me now for this character?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with Gotham being part of the whole Batman universe and DC Comics, there were so many like diehard fans, which was something that I really never experienced before. It was really cool because like that fan base is like so involved, which was really awesome. It was also cool when the pilot was coming out because they had a lot of different billboards of our pictures up in New York City. So I was seeing my face on buses and in subways, and that was definitely really crazy. And super fun, a great experience. But for me, I always stayed in regular school. And so I wasn't homeschooled. I was able to like go to regular school, play sports. So because of that, it definitely helped me to still feel like a child, you know,
Mm.
and I definitely didn't feel like I was just going and just acting. I had a lot of other things that I was doing in my life, which really helped me to think stay grounded. But it was an awesome experience. And like you were saying, the show was definitely really popular and it was really cool.
And Claire, in terms of the Ivy sort of character as such, once you landed the role and once you became familiar about it, did you find yourself going back watching animated sort of Batman series, animated sort of to comic books, trying to learn as much as you can about Ivy to try and get a sense of what a young Ivy may be like in terms of her personality or appearance? Because we see two very different Ivies. We see the young incarnation of Ivy, and then we see the older Poison Ivy. And obviously, you played the young incarnation Ivy. So there's probably not much in terms of history or research for you to go on, but you probably want to still maybe relate it to the older version of Poison Ivy to sort of feel that they're the one person as such.
Yeah, definitely. I watched a lot of different movies. I had seen a lot of the Batman movies already. I have four brothers, so Batman was very big in my house. So I grew up watching all the movies, which also made it really special. And I checked out some cool comics. It was really cool because a lot of the fans were really involved on Twitter. So to actually get people who were like diehard comic fans tweeting me saying like, you have to read this, you have to read that, which was really fun. So it was cool to have all that information about the character online. I definitely did a lot of research and familiarized myself with the character. But like you were saying, it was really cool because there had never been a young Ivy before.
Mm.
So although this was a character who had been played many times and there's a lot of depictions, I also got to have a new outlook on the character and do something different, which was awesome.
And Claire, in terms of appearance in Gotham, and obviously you're having a recurring role, and you never know what's in sort of store for when you might be coming back, or what's in store for your character. Did you sort of were you intrigued to see the plots and the script changes every time, and was it a big surprise and revelation when you saw what was in store for your character? Were you always sort of on the edge, sort of wondering what's going to happen? Because obviously Ivy goes bad at some stage. Were you sort of waiting for the big sort of bombshell to sort of drop in one sense?
Definitely. I loved getting the new scripts, especially with Ivy. She was always up to something, doing something new, especially after the pilot. I didn't appear for a few episodes. And I remember thinking, like, I wonder what it's going to be like next, because in the pilot, you just see me for a second when my dad is a suspect for the Wayne murders. So I was like, not sure at all how I was going to come back into the story. And then they end up running into me, Selena and Bruce, and there's like a little part where I say like I was adopted by a family upstate and they tried to change me and groom me and I ran away. So it was really cool because she was always kind of out on the streets, which kept things unpredictable.
Yeah, and I suppose, Claire, in terms of featuring in Gotham, obviously it's a big cable TV show, a big popularity all across the States and the world. Do you feel having that as a young actress on your resume in terms of your credits, your CV? Did you think afterwards, once you finished your role playing a young Ivy Pepper, do you think it opened up further opportunities for you in terms of auditioning for other roles or sending in a show reel for other sort of parts that have a big production like Gotham so young under your belt?
Definitely, especially since it's such a recognizable name. I find today that even if people haven't seen the show, they've heard of it, or obviously everyone's heard of Fox. So it definitely helps me a lot. And it's just a really cool credit to have.
And I suppose, Claire, in terms of the camaraderie of working on such a project, and obviously you were there for 2 years, 2014, 2016, and you sort of mentioned that sort of cast as well. You were there for 3 seasons. It went on for sort of 5 seasons. Do you almost sense that there was a good sort of connection, that every people that worked in the cast probably stayed in touch with each other, that there was that sort of feeling that it was something special that you were working on? It wasn't the case of just turning up for work, going home, and that there was no sort of connections or chemistry between the set.
There was a great chemistry between everyone on set. It really did feel like a family, which was really special. Everyone, I like could not say enough good things about everyone who worked on the show. Everyone was so awesome, and I'm still in touch with a few of them now. And anytime I get a chance to see them or talk to them, everyone's like so excited to see each other. And I went to the series wrap party a few years ago, and it was so awesome. Everyone was so excited to see me, and everyone is just so friendly. I never had any sort of bad experience on that set. Everyone was always so excited to be there, always so fortunate to be there.
And as a young actress, what was it like working under director Danny Cannon, in terms of his input or his involvement, or how he tried to shape you on set in terms of Ivy?
He was great. He was really helpful, and I think that the notes that he gave were really great. And obviously, with young actors, a lot of times um, directors don't want to, scare them or make them think that they're doing a good job. And he was just so friendly and definitely gave me a lot of notes to kind of form the character, like you were saying. Because again, although there have been so many Poison Ivies, there never really been a young Ivy, and she is different from anything else that we've seen her before. And so he definitely gave me a lot of good kind of background and things to think about to shape my performance.
And I suppose, Claire, I suppose wetting your toes in that sort of DC sort of universe, that sort of Batman sort of Stanley sort of type environment, does it give you that sort of appetite to pursue projects similar to that? Is that something that you have an intrigue for as a sort of young actress? And if future roles came about in terms of an animated series, in terms of voiceover or voicing Ivy, is that something you would be inclined to do as well? Is that something that you find an intriguing prospect, the thought of future maybe spin-off animated voiceover projects?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to do anything having to do with Batman or Gotham or Poison Ivy again, because it was just such an iconic role to play, and it really does hold such a special place in my heart. It's just like I was saying before, the fan base is so amazing, and just being part of that whole universe is something really, really special. And I would love to do anything involving it again.
And I suppose, Claire, in terms of 2021, I suppose the last year and a half, everything, the whole world has been infected in terms of COVID, but things are beginning to get back together now in terms of the acting industry, in terms of opportunities, in terms of casting. Have you anything in the pipeline that you're excited about, that's going to be released towards the end of the year or working on at the moment, that we might see in our TV screens in the near future?
Yeah. Despite COVID, I was really fortunate to be able to work on two different independent films this past year. One of them was in December and will be kind of going through festivals this summer. It's called The Changed, and it's a sci-fi thriller. And then the other one I just finished filming about a few weeks ago, and it's called She Came from the Woods, and that's also a horror film. So I'm really excited for those. They're both going to be coming probably in early of next year. And those are both really awesome projects that I'm really excited for everyone to see.
And I suppose, Claire, lastly for me, let's say you mentioned a wrap party, but let's say there was a sort of a book signing, or in terms of Gotham, and all the cast members the sort of left up, wrote 2 sentences to sort of summarize their experience or summarize their feelings about Gotham or their character as such. What would you, if there was that sort of blank book and someone gave you a biro and said, right, Clare Foley, scribble 2 lines down there that's going to be contained in that sort of Gotham Memoirs book, what 2 lines would you write?
I gotta think about this. This is important. Two lines. I think first off, I would say there's nothing really quite like being part of the community of Batman fans in general. And it was a really special experience to be a part of that, both that feeling of community, both with all the fans and with the cast and the crew. And secondly, just how cool it was to be the first young Poison Ivy and to be able to play such an iconic character that so many amazing actresses have gotten to play before, yet to be able to take my own spin on it and do something different with it.
On that note, Clare Foley, I suppose with the surname Foley, I suppose it'd be wrong of me not to ask, is there a bit of Irish in your ancestry?
Yes, there's actually a lot of Irish. Both of my parents are Irish citizens, and I will be coming to Ireland hopefully soon. I usually go with my family over the summer, so trying to get there soon. I love Ireland.
And what part of Ireland is your parents from, Clare?
They are from County Clare.
County Clare. County
Yes,
Clare.
like the name
On,
Clare.
On that note, Clare Foley, an absolute pleasure talking to you today to relive your memories of playing Ivy Pepper in the first 3 seasons of Gotham. Appeared in 10 episodes from 2014 to 2016. Obviously, you've left your mark in the franchise, Clare, and hopefully we'll see you in many more spin-offs in relation to DC, in relation to Batman, in relation to Gotham in the near future. But for the moment, take place, and we wish you all the best for your future projects and endeavors that are going to hit our screens in the remainder of the year. Clare Foley, take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.